Gentlemen and lady, welcome. Hi, how are you all? All right, Sunday of the Dead, here we are. Doing my best. It's all because of them. You know, if they don't give me the reaction, I'm going to sleep up here. So, okay. I would love to start off by asking each one of you about your acting journey. I would love to know how you got involved in this crazy business. We can start with Miss Ashley. Ladies first.
Is this on? I liked a boy, and I followed him into an acting class in Teenage Drama Workshop, and then he left, and I stayed. So.
Okay. My mother had been an actress, and I was useless at school. Completely useless, and the only thing I used to turn up for was drama and English. And I did a school play, and it was the best day of my life. And then we kind of took it from there. I went to a stage school in London when I was a kid, and that led me to be able to work in movies. The first movie I ever made was with Nastasha Kinski in Germany, and I was about 16. So that led me into a world that was too good to give up. So yeah, that's how it began.
I was always kind of doing it at school, nativity plays, and at Sunday school I played King somebody or other from the Old Testament who dipped himself in the which river would it be? Not the Nile, probably. The Jordan, I would imagine, 3 times, which was the first time I encountered stage magic. I stepped behind the curtain, came back out again, stepped behind the curtain, came back out again, stepped behind the curtain again, came back out again. Fast forward to roughly 1969, and I am at Quarrybank High School for boys in Liverpool, and I got myself cast in the school play, The Government Inspector by Nikolai Gogol. So I was told to report for rehearsals, which I duly did, and was introduced to my fellow cast members, which included a fellow by the name of Clive Barker. That was the day that changed my life. Clive was already writing and producing his own plays in school, and I got drawn into that orbit. Then we started doing independent theatre after school and university in Liverpool, and then the Araman Theatre used to let us have free run of the theatre when it was dark, which would never happen now, but it was wonderful. And eventually in London, original plays by Clive. We were making life very easy for ourselves. We were entirely unknown actors doing entirely unknown plays by an entirely unknown writer. We assumed we'd arrive in London and everyone would say, "Oh my God, you're all geniuses," and throw themselves at our feet. It wasn't at all like that. That company broke up in 1982. In 1985, in the midst of a casual conversation with Clive, he said to me, "I'm trying to put together a low-budget, independent British horror film. I think there might be a part in there for you." And a year later, the cameras were rolling on Hellraiser. That's my journey.
Yes?
So I was an academic failure at school. I actually had a good education, at school, quite smart school, but brought up a fortunate child. So the prep school was a place in Buckinghamshire. Graduated to King's College, Taunton, Somerset. It was all splendid. I excelled on the football field, the cricket field especially, and in the athletic world. I had no like batting in, that's what I just near on, it's Seabold, medium taste.
Have a game later.
Getting to the point that I came out of there in academic failure, we used to have this low level examinations for O levels. It took me 4 years to get 3. Like we have a college in Bedfordshire called Commander College. I came up this thing. A lot of dithering around in my early career. I was a little truck driver, as you call me, all the time. Dadding around, Dad used to despair. You can't do that for the rest of your life, which I think. So my dear old friend Hughie Armstrong, bless him, the loveliest man in the world, dear Hugh. Hugh had already dabbled in the acting profession, you see. He wrote for drugs. And one day, in sort of mild despair, I said to dear old Hugh, what's this acting beloved malarkey you like there? And I said to this Dad, and Dad was all prepared for it. It was quite like me, I didn't go to drama school or whatever. But I had to step my way. I'm not going to talk about that, was pretty still and crucial. And she insisted, because I was interviewed my friend Hugh, to give me the carte blanche acting, whatever was required to become an actor. So Hughie turned up in the house, to be interviewed by my dad in the dreaded stepmother. And he was asking, Hugh, tell me, Johnny wants to be an actor. What do you think? And he said, well, if I can bloody get away with it, I'm bloody sure he can. And so John was done. So I got qualifications from my friend Hugh to become an actor, which I did. And I ended up the Central School of Speech and Drama. I loved every minute. Here I am now.
So we already heard how Doug got involved in Hellraiser. How did this crazy, crazy movie come into your lives?
Well, yeah, I got the standard route with a call. Could you go meet this guy in a hotel in London? And send you the script 2 days ahead, so you go, oh yeah, that's fine. Not knowing what I know. And yes, I walked into this hotel suite, and there was the young Clive Barker, who I'd never met and never heard of. But I knew, as you sometimes do, whether it's a movie script or whether it's a new play, sometimes you open something up and you go, oh wow, this is really interesting, this is really good. I had no understanding at all of what the visuals would be. And I knew that the actual concept of the script and the journey that the characters were going on into hell and demonology was just really, really clever and good and interesting. And we had a conversation, and I said to Clive, I know that you've written it, and you're obviously very close to the material. I said, I think we've got to know a lot more about my character's journey. I mean, what an actor line that is. But how do you see it being deepened if we shoot it? Because actually it's really just a sketch. He's barely there in the screenplay. And he said, well, what do you think you want to do with it? And I said, we need to improvise certain things. I said, and you're kind of just hinting at this evil, dark past. Why does he come out of nowhere like a man from Laramie, and then what? So we thrashed it through, and in talking in detail about how his script was working, we just became very close. He was very easy to be with, and I'm very envious of Doug, who knew him for so many years, and still does. But I just knew that I was in the hands and in the mind of somebody who was going to be very, very interesting to work with, and he was very generous, and on the set very easygoing and open to ideas all the time, wasn't he? So that's how, in a hotel room in Bloomsbury, in London, I met Mr. Barker. I never looked back.
I was in an acting class, and a fellow student was a PA over in New World at the time. And Clive and Chris Figg, the producer, they were on their way back to London. They'd gone to New York, they'd gone to LA, they'd gone to Chicago. They hadn't done Christie yet. So I got a phone call that said, just show up at New World. It was late at night. There were stacks of sides, parts of the script. And I sat down and met Clive, and he said, okay, your uncle's in your father's skin. He's trying to kill you and have sex with you, probably in that order. Go. So I called Red, and then he said, I want you to come to the UK to screen test. And then Doug was there, and you played Pinhead and Weasel, right?
We did the scene from the Chinese restaurant.
Yep.
And one other which I don't recall.
I don't know your
I do remember I insisted on trying to learn my lines for the screen test, which was a mistake because I went first and I completely dried. Which is English speak for forgetting your lines.
I don't remember that. I just remember that you were really gone on some kind of red eye, and they don't hide their like geese and ducks and like pigs. So like in all the stores, like there's all these dead animals hanging everywhere. Like, it's just different. I'd never been to Europe before, and I was in like delis, like you have like whole animals. We hide.
Oh, right.
We hide everything.
You thought you might have sex?
It was just like forewarning. No. And then you read with me, and then Clive said they really want a name, but I want to try to push you through the system. And then a week later, he called and he said, "We're in." So that's
Oh,
how.
wow.
Yeah, that's how that happened.
Did you have anything to elaborate on how you got involved in Hellraiser?
It's very simple.
Yeah.
I'll take moments to say this. I was sitting down one day and the phone rang and Selwyn Roberts, it was on the phone by way of my dear friend Robin Neville. And the message was this between the pair of them. There's a man looking for a skinny actor to play a monster in this film. They don't want an extra. They want an animated skinny monster. So I said, yes is the answer. So the word went back via Robin to Selwyn, to Clive, who suddenly got back in touch with me and said, go for the deal at production village Wolseley. So I met Clive in there, we had a little chat about this, that, and the other. You might be rubberized and all that sort of nonsense. I think that's what he said. And so the job was mine, and so there we go. The rest is history. Happy history. That's it, that's me.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I do have to say that on my podcast, The Dolls of Horror, we covered Hellraiser, and one of the segments on my podcast is prop we want to own. My guest picked Skinless Frank. He wants to own a replica or you, I'm not sure, because Frank's so handsome, right? He wanted a Skinless Frank. I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, so do we have any audience questions right now? I can keep going. All right.
So, as hopefully most of us know, soundbites get summoned by the little box. If there was an object or a device that would summon you in your personal life, what device would summon you? Puppies.
Puppies would summon Ashley.
I need another second or two.
I'm sorry, it's a tough one.
What device would summon you, Oliver?
I got a Land Rover.
A Land Rover?
Not a New York Land Rover. This is the sad part of my life. I got a little hobby. It goes back to, I have got a Land Rover. It's a 1955 ex-military Land Rover. It's 70 next week.
Nice.
3 days after my own birthday, funny that. It's 70 next week, and I've had it for 40 years, and it's driven, it's not just polished and looked at, it's filthy. It's driven every day, it's like British engineering, you don't love that these days. So I've got a bit of a little childish thing about Land Rover. It's very boring, but you don't understand.
What device would summon Doug?
No, it would be a device that would make Manchester City go away. Be perpetually relegated and fined out of existence as the cheating bastards deserve. And a device that would guarantee eternal glory for Liverpool FC, even more than I'm used to them achieving. That would do for me.
Wow.
I hadn't actually realised that Doug was that deluded. That he thinks there's a chance of eternal glory for Liverpool. Us Chelsea boys no different. Anyway, it came to me suddenly, it's not a device. I think the thing that would summon me quite quickly would be a pair of really nice thigh-high, high-heeled boots, not vinyl, on the right person. I'd be there like a shot.
Very nice. Yeah.
Since this amazing film that you all were involved in has origin as an amazing piece of horror literature, do you all have a favorite piece of horror literature that you're fans of?
Lots. I would probably settle for The Telltale Heart. And I know you all study it at school in America. We're not that fortunate in England, we don't do that, but it is, I think, a brilliant piece of writing. Not least because it's inexplicable. From those opening lines, truly nervous, very, very nervous. I have been and am, but why will you say that I am mad? And we don't know what prompted this. We never find out. We don't know who asked the question that prompted that. We don't know in what circumstances the person is who's responding. We don't even find out the gender of the individual. We assume a man, but there's no evidence in the story to tell us that. Who then proceeds to say, to prove to you that I'm not mad, I will listen to how sane my story is, who then proceeds to tell you possibly the most insane story ever recounted. If you look at the details in Poe's writing, when he's going with the lantern to the old man's room, and he says, it took me an hour to open the door and put the lantern in. Go home and try taking 3 minutes to do that. And then think about an hour. The madness, the only motivation he has for wanting to kill the old man is his eye. And every night when he goes in and the old man is asleep, he can't kill him because he can't see his eye until one night when he sees his eye and so forth, and the disposal of the body, and then he's going mad at the end. He tells us, ranting and raving and swinging his chair around while the detectives are sitting quietly ignoring him. I think there's a level on which none of this ever happened, and it's all in the head of whoever it is who's telling us the story. The unreliable narrator, it's called. And Poe used it constantly and brilliantly. I'd settle for that. But lots and lots and lots and lots of candidates.
I would say Macbeth, which is not, it's a bit obvious, but the more you live with that play, the more you read around it, one of the very earliest and most brilliant analysis of what happens to someone when they do something wrong. They don't want to, they haven't set out to do that. And what's brilliant about that whole scenario is the character is drawn into the nature of evil. And what's so beautiful about it is it's not his choice. And that's what evil does. It tends to, if such a thing exists, and if that power and that energy is around, people can become drawn into a cycle of events which lead them to become less than themselves. And in that play, his self-analysis of what's happening to him is terrifying. For me, it's one of the most terrifying things to confront. He knows that he's no longer himself. He knows that he's no longer in control of his destiny, and he cannot understand why. And that, to me, is absolutely terrifying. And it's a brilliant piece of early modern literature by Shakespeare, who was, of course, the genius he was. But he's the genius he was because he had these extraordinary new insights, psychologically, way before Freud, of what doing something wrong will do to you. And that is the nature of the human cost of evil. If you kill someone, if you take someone's life, more often than not you'll find people who've done that spend the rest of their lives in a state of absolute shock. And they cover it up and they brass it through, but there's something that's changed in them that they can never get back. And that play absolutely nails that. So to knowing you can't go back. Can't make it any better.
I'm gonna bask in those two.
Do you have one piece of horror or a piece of literature? What was the question, Brandon?
Do you have a favorite piece of horror literature or horror-related literature?
I can't following Sean and
Yeah.
David. I'm not really qualified. I'm not honest about it. I'm not swatted up enough to be able to make a reasonable comment. So that my dear chums, they know exactly what we're on. I can't someone as well. And don't take it personally, please.
Anyone else? Yeah.
This one's for Doug. Is there any iconic British character, either from literature or film, that you would love to embody? That you love to embody?
Did I understand the question?
Is there any iconic British character, either from literature or film, that you'd love to
That I would like to have played or would like to play.
Yeah.
Well, most of them I'm too fucking old for now. Macbeth would have been one of them. It is a wonderful play and a wonderful part. It's a regret for me because in the story of my arrival in acting that I told you, when we were doing the Dog Company, which was the theatre company I had with Clive, we were at the Edinburgh Festival. We were doing well. We were in a play of Clive's called The History of the Devil, and I was playing the devil, and it was a wonderful part. I barely off stage for it, and it was somewhere in the middle of that I thought, I think this is what I'm going to be doing. I'd be about 26, 27 at that point, and I'd just been this is about 1980, I think, and I'd been swept through a decade of working with Clive. And I thought, so what do I do now? Do I stop and go to drama school and have somebody else tell me how they think I ought to be doing this? Or am I arrogant enough to think I can do this? And I was arrogant enough to think that I could do it as well as some, and better than a few, if not as well as most, something like that. Which is to say that I didn't have that conventional route into acting, which means I have never done any Shakespeare. And it makes me very depressed, because he is God. He is the greatest practical dramatist who ever picked up a pen. He's not just someone who writes reams of poetry and complicated language, as I think is often the misunderstanding with Shakespeare. As often as not, his language is as simple can be. And I would love to have done Shakespeare, but I never have. Otherwise, to be honest, I don't spend my time thinking, could have been me. The old, how many insert name here does it take to change a light bulb? How many actors does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is 5. 1 to change the light bulb, and 4 to say, I wouldn't have done it like that.
Still didn't be clear, though. There's
probably only, I suppose, well, an assorted old France Shakespeare probably still available to.
Were there any Clive Barker projects that you're aware of that never came to fruition or anything? Or things
That's a good long question, isn't it? You're thinking, I don't
All of
know
them.
about this. All of us.
So you're saying, are we aware of any Clive Barker projects that didn't see the light of day?
Yeah.
I'm only laughing. Because I've always said that the worst thing you could possibly do if you were on the phone with Clive would be to say, so what are you up to? Because you could go away and put got your affairs in order and learn the whole of Macbeth and come back again, and he would still be talking about the projects that he was currently working on. From the first time that I knew him and worked with him, there were always projects. There was always another project. And the thing with Clive, and to be honest, absolutely honest, it was a problem with the theatre company. Some of the experimental stuff we did in the early 70s, there's one in particular, a wonderful piece called A Dream, which we improvised and put together ourselves from folk tales and bits of mythology. It wasn't a written thing. We spent a year putting that together and rehearsing it. We performed it once. Once Clive had performed something he didn't want to know about, it was done, and he was on to the next. There are hundreds of Clive Barker projects that did not see the light of day. I can assure you of that. There was his, there was the mummy project he was doing. It didn't have any mummies in it, I think. When we were filming Hellbound at Pinewood, we had the luxury of dressing rooms, which was not afforded to us on the first film. So I'm up in my dressing room biding my time, and there's a knock on the door, and Clive came in and started talking. He said, by the way, Hellraiser 3 is going to be happening. I said, oh, cool. And he started to talk to me about Hellraiser 3. Now, Clive will always sweep you up in the excitement of what he's talking about. What he was telling me was, and I think this was the prototype for the Mummy project. The basic idea of Hellraiser 3 was going to be that the Great Pyramid was the first lament configuration built to raise the great pharaoh from the dead, who was the first Cenobite. And I put that in an absolute nutshell. Clive spun this story for me over about 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm just, wow. And then he said, I should probably get back down to set and see you down there soon. And I said, yeah, sure. And he left, and a couple of minutes after he'd gone, I thought, you fucker. You just came up here to tell me that there's going to be a Hellraiser 3 and I'm not going to be in it.
Yeah.
Or at least Pinhead is not going to be in it. But nothing is ever lost. Look, Clive made a movie which is basically a piece of juvenilia called The Forbidden. Vast, sprawling project that went over. It started as an adaptation of Marlowe's Faustus that was not that in the end at all. In that, he is playing with what he called his nail board, which was a block of wood, and he got 9-inch nails and painted a gridiron pattern onto the block of wood and put these nails in at the intersections of the gridiron. What he was doing was shooting in reverse so that, he painted, well, I have this right, he painted the board black so that in reverse it would be white, and then he was swinging and painted the lines white so that in reverse they'd be black, and then was swinging a light in front of the board to watch the pattern of the nails moving across the nail board, so that in reverse these would be white shadows. I have got this the wrong way around. This would be, he painted it white so it would be black with white shadows against a black background when you see it in reverse. Pinhead. Now there's probably 10 years between The Forbidden and Pinhead, but that's Clive maintaining that image in his head and then thinking, what if I put this on somebody's head? would that look like? How would that work? Every single idea he ever has is kept on the Rolodex. Nothing is ever lost, and things are recycled constantly. Hellraiser is basically the Faustus story. So everything comes around. But trust me, there's lots and lots of stuff that you will never hear about. Even when I've been at his house over the last 10 years. Oh, this is something I'm working on. This is notes for a novel. This is this. You know, always the ambition. Nightbreed was going to be the first of a trilogy. He wrote Cabal, filmed Nightbreed, was writing Cabal 2, then there would be Nightbreed 2, Cabal 3, and Nightbreed 3. But having done Cabal and Nightbreed, something else is pulling it. You know, that's the mind of a genius.
Wow. Wow.
So, in the era of recycled Hollywood, how do you feel if they were to do a revamp of Hellraiser, a movie?
Is the question, in the era of recycled Hollywood, how did you feel when you heard they were going to do the remake of Hellraiser?
No,
Recycled.
if they were.
I'm sorry, what? If.
Well, they did, kind of.
They did.
I know, not the series per se, but like just the whole just the whole.
I would say it's a question that's based around a slight misconception,
Yeah.
because there was a weird chemistry in making the first film that sometimes happens on projects. It wasn't over-planned, and it started as a very small-scale British movie
Yeah.
that became organic. And what happened was, through the casting and the chemistry of the casting, alchemy, that's the word, you know, you can, as we saw with the whole body of Hellraiser follow-ups, you can try and recreate something of that, but you'd be doing the wrong thing. The movie itself was a product absolutely of time and place. You talked about your casting, you know, you went, you were the right person at the right time. That same thing happened for me with Clive. He knew Doug over many years, and then Oliver was available to be brilliant as the skinny Frank. You can try to recreate that. You'll get something different, inevitably. But the film is precious because the chemistry and the budget and the shooting, the lighting, all that work that was done for the makeup, nobody would do that now. So it would be CGI, and then it would be, as inevitably happens with CGI, it would be very dull, and after 15 minutes you forget you'd even seen it. Somebody who works in the tech side of this said to me once about this, I think it's really interesting. The eye and the ear, when you're watching CGI, you know you're being deceived. And you refuse, there's something in the subconscious that refuses to buy into it. You will, you'll watch it, you'll sit there, you'll chew the popcorn, and the credits will roll and you'll go. But you won't have been moved. It's not visceral. And something about the original films, it's probably one of, given its budget, I mean, it's one of the most inventive things I've ever been associated with. And the makeup that they did for Doug and for Oliver was so extraordinarily painstaking. And when we were filming, Clive took me through to the workshop to show me the animatronics that were being built for the hand and the arm and all that. And we knew that even though it was a budget movie, this was going to look amazing. If nothing else, it might all be rubbish, but it would look good. But that's what you have sometimes. You just have a moment in time. Happens in the theatre. You have a moment in time where a particular playwright, a particular director, a particular group of actors come together, and something happens. You remount the play a few years later. It's not quite the thing, or it's even better, maybe. But usually, it's something like this is a product of time and place, and we're all very lucky that that was the case.
Brilliant. Spot on.
Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely.
He's my agent.
He's taking your money, isn't he?
extraordinary. But the atmosphere of that whole thing, it was a good time in the light. Yeah, we all are.
I just want to elaborate on it slightly to talk about the relationship between Clive and Robin Vigil, who was the DP on Hellraiser. Now, I've talked about the theatre work that we did, and we created extraordinary stuff on pocket money. And if Clive wrote in one of his plays, you know, Yellowstone erupted and the end of the world happened, we'd have staged it for £5, but we'd have done it. And a lot of that energy came into Hellraiser. Clive didn't know his arse from his elbow. He really didn't. He'd been briefly on grown-up sets for Rawhead Rex and Underworld that he'd written screenplays for. And although he'd done the two pieces of juvenilia, Salome and The Forbidden, that I mentioned, he never directed properly before. And there's a wonderful apocryphal story that he turned up on set and said, who's in charge here? And Selwyn Roberts, the first AD, there was a pause and people shuffled their feet and Selwyn said, you are. Clive didn't know about lenses and he didn't know about lighting. What he got with Robin Vigil, and in another universe, Clive would have got a job's worth DP who would have seen him coming from 10 miles away and thought, well, my life's easy, I can run rings around this guy because he doesn't know what he's doing. Clive could, and I heard him on set doing it, instance a painting, a Renaissance painting or something like that, or a lighting, a feel, a something that he'd want. And Robin would say to him, I understand what you want, Clive, we can do that. If you do, we have to do this, and we have to do that, and we have to do this. And then when you've done these shots, we're going to have to relight to make that work. Now, I can do all of that, but if you do, it's going to take a lot of time. And that's going to cause you problems later in the day. But he met Clive. He listened to what Clive wanted and worked out how to make the vision in Clive's head work. And I remember being amused listening to these conversations going backwards and forwards between them on set. Then Robin took Clive aside and taught him lenses. And then I remember the conversation changing slightly. Because now Clive could say, can we put this lens on it? Like, can we put that lens on it? Can we? And challenging Robin and saying, why are we using this and can we not use that lens? And I remember clearly Robin saying at one point, why the fuck did I teach this guy? Now he not only knows what he wants, he knows how to get it. And that relationship, exactly as you were saying, Sean, that relationship, you can't buy and you can't legislate for. It's that, again, that spark of chemistry, it happens. And without question, those sparks of chemistry went right through the production. All the casting, I think, well, with some exceptions, close to you possibly, were faultless, really. And you touched on Clive's insistence that he wanted an actor in the skin man costume, in the same way that he insisted that he wanted actors in Cenobite costumes. Would be very, very, very easy and cheaper just to put extras in as the Cenobites and the skin man. Stand here, do that, move here, say something, say the lines, doesn't matter what we're saying, and then get a voiceover artist to do Pinhead's lines or whatever. But Clive insisted we wanted actors in those costumes to fill out the parts. And And look what it does with the skinned man. Most directors, most horror films, they put a skinned man on the screen, it's going to be to make you all go, oh, the man without skin. And that will be the last you see of him.
Yeah, but go on, make you
Clive puts the skin man on the screen and holds him there and has him smoking cigarettes and drinking wine and falling in love. You know, you linger with this image of the skin man, and it's very, very few directors, I think, would have gone there.
Made me realize why I've never liked cartoons. Even as a child, I hated them. I could never get into it. I was a puppet person. I watched those creepy puppet shows, right? And I love those, but I hated cartoons, and I still do. And then hearing you talk, I just realized why. You know, it's fake, and I know it.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I remember having to take my children when they were young to the Lord of the Rings films, you know. And after about 17,000 hours of orcs being killed, I found myself thinking, why don't I care? Because you don't relate to any of them. None of them exist. They don't have any interior life or whatever. And when the call came, Daddy, will you take us to Lord of the Rings 63? Well, do you not gonna let Mummy take you? You enjoy it. That's fine. Avatar.
Am I wrong that it may be the most boring film?
There was a review in England in one of the newspapers for Avatar that said, yes, go and see lots of pink cement moving around. That's how engaged I was by it.
Apart from being astonished that they'd actually stuck with the name Unobtainium, because I thought, no, that must be a mistake, it's there. We put that in the first draft, because you can't think of anything else. In Get Back, when George is just bringing something, and he can't think of the right word, moves me like a dumb, you don't know. And John says to him, it doesn't matter. Just put a word in, move me like a pomegranate. And so that's what they're singing for a while. That's what I thought with Unobtainium. I got so bored. I spent my time taking my glasses off to see what was happening at the edge of the screen where the 3D image wasn't quite.
It's funny, isn't it? Because Jaws is a famous example of the fact that the shark is quite obviously rubber.
Bruce.
But even so, even though you know that's the case, there's a physical object there. And you know, as you watch it, when you can imagine the actors having to relate to a physical thing, there it comes up, this, and you'll have to move away. And when you get into the whole green screen thing, the CGI thing, there is that lack of. The best example I know of recently is the Gladiator film. The first one with Russell Crowe is totally brilliant, and you're engaged by it, and you're aware that they're sort of actually hacking at each other in the arena. They're no stuntmen. And then now you've got the second one, and we've got rubber sharks, but they're not even rubber. They're in the arena, and the shots from above, and you're thinking, yeah, it's a drawing of a shark chasing him around a boat, you know, nothing's. And that film is interminable. This thing just goes on and on and on. And I was thinking, come on, you know, Denzel, come on, just go faster. Let's get this through. And there was a byproduct of the fact that he didn't believe a thing in it.
The sequence of the rebirth of Frank in Hellraiser is one of my favourite sequences in all of horror cinema. I think it's absolutely brilliant and extraordinary.
That with this
Chris coming out music going. It's entirely improvised, basically between Clive and Bob Key, put together on the day. If they had gone back and reshot that a couple of weeks later, it would have looked completely different. And that's the joy of handmade special effects. It happens now, once only, captured on film. CGI is a magnificent tool. Lord of the Rings is a perfect example. It couldn't have been made 5-10 years earlier. It allows you to put 17,000 orcs on screen. The problem with CGI is it's perfect.
Yes.
It does exactly what you want it to do, and it does it perfectly. The great thing about actors and physical special effects is that we are sublimely imperfect. We make mistakes all the time. I think it was Jean Cocteau who said that accidents make poetry happen. And it seems to me that CGI can. Sometimes you see an explosion in a movie and you think, I've seen that before. You were in that.
No, I entirely agree with that. When you think back to Oliver covered in, the Guinness wheel, and the reality of shooting in real time means he was always covered in huge buckets full of KY jelly. And you're shooting live, and there'll be a moment when the piece drips in a particular way. You can't forecast how it will happen. You don't know what's going to, but it'll just enliven something. That's the thing. Whereas with CGI, everybody's an expert. There'll be 15 people making the choice about where a tear will fall or whatever. So we've made the point, but it's just to do with, that's part absolutely of why this film, with its very abstracted understanding of horror and demonology and so forth, you buy into it because the other stuff, the street scenes, the dialogue, the sexual tension, feels real. So when it comes to having heightened stuff with monsters and dummies and things like that, then you buy that too. So it's simplistic, but that's how I think it is.
Well, yeah, I've always said that the great strength of Hellraiser isn't about Pinhead and the Cenobites, and it isn't even about the box. The great strength of Hellraiser is the basic story. And I've always said that you can actually take the Cenobites and the box out of that story entirely, forget they ever existed. You have a fairly serviceable late 80s slasher movie on your hands, because the fundamental story of Frank and Julia and Larry and Kirsty is not touched by all of that. You find a different reason why you died, but that's easily done, and a different reason, but Larry cuts himself and you come back to life. That makes perfect sense. You've still got Julia bashing businessmen's brains out, which we all love and enjoy. And you've still got Ollie as the skin man. You need to find a slightly different. They move on to the whole thing for Kirsty to save the day, but you can do that too, and there it is. That's the bedrock that is the strength of Hellraiser. Clive creates all of that, and then he takes this little speck of pure Gothic horror and drops it into the middle of that, and the whole thing goes boom somewhere else entirely.
All right, got time for one more. Raise those hands. Let's go you. I haven't got you yet.
Actually, when did you realize this low-budget, independent British horror movie was going to become a phenomenon? Like, when did you realize, oh wow, this is huge?
I didn't.
I still don't.
No, and Doug was like, you need to come out. And I was like, no, I'm just going to be some girl sitting behind the table saying I was in a movie once. He's like, no, people love this.
Yes.
So thank you, because I'm still it's relevant because it is in our lives. It was so formative as they were talking about that moment of alchemy and that perfect storm and the interrelationships between us and the creativity that was just allowed to keep expressing itself more and more and more as we did it. That affected my life on every single level. So.
Well, it's interesting that you say, revisiting that thing about a particular time and place, because the other thing, people have been talking to me in the signings over the last few days, we've talked about this, I'll be very brief, but the film came at the right time for its subject matter. It's gothic, it's horrific, it's BDSM, and all that stuff was bubbling under in the culture. There was the underground scene, certainly in London. There were clubs that were, beginning to emerge through the 70s and the 80s. But the imagery was still very much underground. What this movie did with that wonderful, iconic shot of the pinhead, that went round the world, like the black collar and the leather coat and everything. And suddenly, within 3 or 4 years of that film being aired, London's club scene had exploded into this sort of fetish extravaganza, and it was fantastic. But the film arrived at the right time, and if it had been a couple of years earlier, it probably might not have got full release. Yeah, okay. Apparently she's butting in. Getting confident.
Don Mancini, who Chucky, he said that Hellraiser was like a gay dog whistle.
Yes, yes. Hellraiser was like a gay dog whistle.
No, that's absolutely it.
I'm going to have to spread that one. That's good. Thanks, Don.
It's a pretty good straight dog whistle too, I have to say. Yeah, did it for me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so to wrap us up, I have one final wrap-up question for you guys. And you all have had such a massive career and experience in years. It's so impressive. Can you share an important lesson you learned on any set that you still carry with you?
I think I look to pay a lip service to this chap here and all my three colleagues. Just listening to this very moment says it all for me. I feel quite glowingly proud. So just listening to everything they've said that brought to life a real truth that I hadn't really thought about quite as deeply. That is true. It's atmosphere. Sorry, don't look at my friends like they're gods, or they are. They are friends above all. But it was a wonderful thing. And if I remember anything constantly, it would be this whole production. That was Hellraiser 1. Yeah. So thank you, all of you, darlings. That's me finishing.
I further that just to say that we all talk about acting and films and plays, as Doug has done. And you can go through your formative years as an actor thinking, hey, this is it's great, people love this, they love that, it's great. I had a lesson once about how important it is to tell stories well and be in the material, be in the best material that you can be. And very briefly, I was a young actor and I was in the National Theatre production of Angels in America in London, which was an extraordinary play coming out at an extraordinary time. AIDS was everywhere, HIV was being talked about, the millennium was approaching. So it was like doing a brand new Shakespeare play because it was dealing with people's lives when they didn't know what the outcomes were going to be. And we did the play, and it was often quite extraordinary that people would come from all over the world to see this. They'd buy flights and come into London to see it in this little theatre at the National. And after one show, I was in the bar having a drink. Somebody came up to me, a guy came up to me, and obviously in Angels in America we were playing gay men who are confronting the crisis in their world of HIV and what it was doing to people. At that time, people were told, have you had unprotected sex with anyone ever? Well, you may be dead next year. And there was no medical evidence to say that that wouldn't happen. So people were terrified, and the play had this incredible energy. A guy tapped me on the shoulder and he said, do you mind if I just tell you something? I said, no, that's fine. What? He said, well, I knew I'd hate this play. I hate gay culture, and I hate everything to do with it. He said, but what I've learned tonight, and I didn't know it was possible, is that these men actually love each other, don't they? And I said, yeah, they do. And the play had taken one person's head and blown it up, enlarged their life. And therefore, when we're in this business telling stories, whether they're history stories or modern stories, we have a responsibility to do the best we can with it, because if it's good, it can change people's worlds. It doesn't do it very often. You might do it 3 or 4 times in your entire career, but when it happens, you can feel it, and it's the most amazing thing. So that's the lesson I've learned about being an actor is that with the right people, the right material, you can change the world. So that's been amazing.
I don't know that I can follow that. Speak up and don't bump into the furniture, I think. Is always kind of,
Speak up and don't bump into the furniture.
make sure your flies are done up before you. Olivier said he always had two thoughts in his head. Are my feet relaxed? And do I have enough breath in my lungs to get to the end of this line? I think only for me it's to listen, not assume that you know what you're doing in vacuum, but listen to everything that's being said around you and listen to what your fellow performers are doing, because what your fellow performers are doing informs what you're doing. Not always the case with movies, because sometimes you shoot in isolation. Ashley and I were not on set together for the first interaction between Hellraiser, Pinhead and Kirsty. So it was actually quite a difference in beat between them. But for me, I think it's that listen to everything that's happening around you and be influenced by everything that's happening around you all the time. If that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, something important you've learned on any set that you still carry with you today.
It's exactly what we're talking about. It's love based. It's honesty. It's having courage to tell the truth and be present for whatever shows up.
Thank you. Everyone. Yes, on the floor. On the floor. You can go their stairs. Yes, you can take the stairs or jump like I do. Ugh. Yes, we don't have to go very far. Do we? Come on in. All right. Is your what? Oh, Stephanie has it. Ready?
Okay, should we say 1, 2, 3, Hellraiser?
1, 2, 3, Hellraiser.
1, 2, 3, Hellraiser! Hey!
Hellraiser. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your wonderful questions. Thank you,
Look at you guys.
They talk real sense. 40 years on.
Man, seriously. History right here.
Thank you very much.
And we're on video. Yep. All right. Huddle up.
Right.
Ready, y'all?
We all are.
All right.
We're all so happy.
Ready. Awesome. Do you like it? Do you like it? Okay. Thank you guys. I'll see you later. Let's take you guys to photo ops. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's what we're doing now?
Tracy is going to take us away, right?
What am I doing?
Taking us away?
Photo ops.
Oh,
Yep.
follow Miss
Right
Tracy.
Just me, I promise. Just me. We'll go this way. That way we're
Gotta put the back.
They give me another 2 inches on my 5'2".